From the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. As you know, nowadays I'm continuing in my new format of having only interviews. We stopped the solo episodes for quite some times now, and you are liking it. And this is why today I have someone very special joining me. Beate, thank you very much for being on the show with me today. This is maybe a traditional question, but can you just tell us a bit more about yourself and what you do?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. And welcome, everyone. My name is Beate Chelette. I am known as the growth architect, and I work with visionaries and thought leaders to help them grow their authority and scale their impact by designing the strategies and the systems, workflows, processes, all that fun stuff to actually get to the goal.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much for being with me today. And it's I know you have a busy schedule, so thank you again for being here today. Now, the first thing, and usually I try as much as possible to prepare and see, what my guests were up to. And I found that you have a very interesting journey. So from being in debt to selling your business to Bill Gates. So can you share a little bit about this journey?
Yes. So the journey really starts like all other journeys, right? It just starts with this general feeling of there's got to be something better out there for me. And I come originally from Germany, and I felt, Mehmet, that there's a lot to be said about Germans that, they're very straight to the point. They're no fun, that they're, always, rules, 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 bullet points, follow it, over engineering, all that good stuff. And while that is certainly true, I felt that I just wasn't fitting in this environment. I always had this more creative aspect about me. And when I was going through the aptitude test in Germany, which of course is taken extremely seriously, I was asked questions like, do you like being outside? Do you mind carrying heavy loads? Are you afraid of heights? And I'm, innocent as I am, I'm like, no, I love it. I don't mind. I'm strong. And then the result of this aptitude test, Mehmet, you'll never guess this. A roofer.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of the look I had on my face. And I'm like, are you guys serious? And she says, well, what would you like to be then? And I said, well, I would like to be a jewelry designer. I'd like to be a textile designer. I'd like to be a photographer. And she goes, no, 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 no. There's just not enough jobs out there. Why don't you become a secretary? I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I think that what happens a lot of times, and the reason I start there at the story is that we have this vision of something that excites us, and then
Hmm.
our environment starts beating it out of us. Then mom, dad, the well-meaning uncle, you know if you want to be a provider for the family, and you got to get really serious about this, or what's all this like dog, if can you get like a real job? So I think we get
Yeah.
so you know exactly what I mean, right? So we get so quickly discouraged. And so I became a photographer anyway. And from there, I became editor at Elle magazine in Germany, went to the United States, immigrated, and now live in Los Angeles. And when I got here, I first had a job. I got laid off in a big recession while I was having a 6 months old baby, very quickly going through a divorce because I married an alcoholic and a pathological liar. That wasn't going to work out. And then my decade of just brutal adversity started, where I had to overcome not just stuff, but natural disasters, fires, floods, riots,
Mm.
earthquake, a lawsuit. September 11th wiped out my business in 24 hours. And the hits just kind of kept coming and coming and coming and coming. And then at the grand finale, I am in Germany and my father had a stroke, but my father didn't have a stroke. He had pancreatic cancer, mammoth. And so he
Mm.
passes away. While I'm at the funeral, my phone rings and it says, the we've been just served a notice and I'm losing the house. And I'm standing there, I'm going like, WTF, what the heck is going on here? And I yelled at God and I said, if you have a plan, this would be a really good time to fill me in. And then I surrendered. And then what happened, I got a letter from the White House because I had written a letter to the White House, and it put me in touch with the Small Business Administration that
Mhm.
helped me to get a restructure for my credit card debt into a 10-year fixed loan, freed up my line of credit, and 3 months later, I'm break even. 18 months later, I'm the world leader in my category, and now a Bill Gates company wants to know how I do it. I told him, "No." I said, "If you want it, you buy it," and they said, "Yes." And then
Wow.
they asked me how much, and I said, "A couple million," and they said, "Fine," and that's how I sold my business to Bill Gates.
Wow. Really inspiring. And okay, just I have to confess something. Some people ask me sometime because recently, when I'm bringing people to the show, they are trying to relate. What's the relation, Mehmet? Your show is called the CTO show. And, like we think it's just a technology thing. I'm telling them technology is a human aspect. And we need to understand that even if you are a technology executive, if you are a founder in the tech space, you need to be inspired. And the way to be inspired is to hear stories from people like yourself, Beate, right? So this is why now I am more, I would say, excited to get more to know about your experience and how you are doing things. And really congratulations on having the courage actually. And this is maybe I think today I just shared, by the way, there is a, and I'm not hiding this, there is a gap of around like 10 days or sometimes 14 days between the recording and the release. So but today I just shared this, that you need to be prepared when you start a business. Um, and, and really it's something that when we listen to a story like yourself, I think everyone should get this courage again, that say, hey, like, I should not delay, I should start now, right away. Now, while preparing for the episode, Beate, I saw that you have mentioned something about you having a super skill in finding hidden opportunities. Can you give us some examples of how you found such opportunities in challenging markets?
Yes. So I'm the queen of reframing. So I always figure that in every challenge there's an opportunity, which is also a very spiritual principle, that if it exists, if the challenge exists, the solution must exist. It's a universal law of opposites, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I give you an example. When I was running this stock photography syndication, Mammoth, and I was admittedly in everybody's book pretty broke. I had wanted to get a meeting with the industry leader at Getty Images, and yeah, I just couldn't get to the table. So I realized, looking for the opportunity in any market where people would go, and I realized that after the conference, they all would be at the bar, but only the men go to the bar. The women don't go to the bar. And so I figured, well, if the men go to the bar, I need to go to the bar. So I
Mm-hmm.
came up and I write about this in my book, Happy Woman, Happy World. I created the Cinderella rule for women who travel for business. And it goes like this: you always dress up for the bar, 3 drink maximum, if you drink, of course, in bed before midnight, you walk to your room alone. And if you follow that rule, you never get in trouble, because then there comes the point, right? At 11:45, sometimes things get a little rowdy because men often, hint, don't have a 3 drink maximum. And then I would just suddenly disappear and walk away. And so over a period of time, I created a lot of goodwill because I was fun to hang out with, but nobody ever got in trouble. I had a good sense of humor. I would not remember exactly what was said, so all secrets were safe with me. So I was abiding by the men's code of, what was said, cannot be shared. And now I get my meaning. I get my meeting with Getty Images. This is the make or break moment. Biggest distribution company in the world. So I go and I get this meeting. I'm in this boardroom in Seattle. I fly up there, and there's what, 10 people sitting around this table. And they all go, "So, Beate, well, we can see you're persistent and excited for you to be here. So tell us, how big is the collection that you would like us to take into our international distribution?" Now, they are now used to people say 4 million, 5 million, like large collections. And I said 453. Their
Hmm.
face was very similar to yours. They were trying to
I'm trying to relate from where you come up with this number. Yeah.
right. So obviously they're between amused and shocked and WTF, what's happening here? So they look at me and they say, "Well, this number seems a little on the low side for what we're used to. So let's talk about hidden opportunities." So I needed to reframe this very fast to my advantage. And hidden opportunity most of the time is something reframed or something being searched for. And I said, "Look, I work with A-listers. This is the A-list photographer, has the cover of Vogue Casa. This is a photographer who gets hired to shoot Julianne Moore's house. This is the photographer who does Francis Ford Coppola's Retreat." I said, if you think these guys shoot hundreds of images, they do one because they're at the
Yeah.
top of their game. I said, "So let me get this straight. You rather have me give you hundreds of images just to fill a database, or do you want me to give you the best of the money shot every time?"
Yeah.
I got the agreement,
Wow.
the
Wow.
smallest distribution agreement they've ever done. And we became we became a well-known and a very sought after collection because I was able to find the opportunity in that. And I think that's what finding hidden opportunities in any economy and recessions is always about. You got to go back to, what are people experiencing in this environment right now? And this is, I mean, going back to what you said earlier about um, don't wait, because people have issues at every stage in in an economy.
Right.
If they're either doing really well or they're not doing so well, they're afraid of this or they're afraid of that. There's always some sort of a challenge because life is rhythmical. And so if you haven't gone back to taking a look at who your customer is, we call this the airtight avatar. And we have, a program that we designed for that, where you literally in 15 minutes can go and check out, what are they experiencing right now. You need to crawl into the minds of your customer and say, is what I was talking about 6 months ago still relevant today?
Hmm.
And so many businesses, and I bet you see this all the time, especially in technology. I mean, 6 months is an eternity in technology.
Right. 100%. 100%.
Got to keep checking. Is what I do still relevant? And I mean, last November, we kind of knew about AI, but boy, did we not know about AI. So there's 10,000 AI apps available now. We estimate there's going to be 1 million AI businesses within the next 18 months. 1 million.
Correct. Correct. 100% correct. And this is something I also believe myself. So the first thing, thank you for sharing this story. What I want to add here is, first of all, there is a lot of noise outside, right? So, and this noise, in my opinion, is naysayers who are near you. There is the media who keeps pumping negative things in your mind. So, my answer is, actually, maybe this is repeated. This is not my own word. You can search it on Google. It will come up. I'm not sure who came up with this, but majority of the big companies, they were actually established during
Recessions.
recessions. So Airbnb is the most famous one.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, Netflix, it was the same concept. And every time, I hear about people talking about economy, I say there's one good thing that happened to humanity in the past, let's say 100 years.
Mhm.
So because before we didn't have a proper way of recording historical events. So it was just someone who witnessed that era and then passed it to someone, to a next generation, then the next generation. And we are not very sure is this thing true or not, right? Now the good thing is now after 100 years of, I don't know, like, I mean, at least something visual, because people like to see visuals in cinema, TVs, and documentaries. So at least now with the internet, we have this history and we can see it, because you mentioned something very true, Beate, which is about the rhythms. So the economy is a cycle, and actually all life is a cycle.
Exactly.
The reason I'm mentioning this because I get very irritated when I hear someone saying, "Hey, we should fear the economy is collapsing." We know that the economy will never collapse. People will never buy food. People will never buy clothes. And if you have these two in the economy happening, so there is the economy, right? So I love this about getting how to find the hidden opportunity. So this is very true. Now, also what I while preparing for the episode, you speak about importance of articulating unique value. So, how do you think we can identify and articulate our unique values?
Oh my God, it's like, like soapbox, get ready, stepping on it. This is like my favorite topic to talk about. So I want your listeners now to really think about this here for a second. So yes, so the economy tightened up. We look at the large companies, and the large companies have one and one obligation only, and that is to make money for the shareholder, right? Because if the valuation of the company is high, the shareholders making their money, they're investing. Now everybody's pocketbook are flush. That's really all there is. So when a large company says, there is a diversity, equity, and inclusion movement, they'll do some token stuff so that it looks like they're on board of it. The minute somebody says you don't have to do this anymore, they get rid of it. They, if the market says we need to bring in people and offer them free beer Fridays and ping pong tables, they'll do exactly that. The minute that's not necessary, all the ping pong tables are going. If somebody says everybody needs to work from home because it's the only thing, the big company says, here's your desk, here's your high speed internet. We do what we take. We're so glad you're here. The minute they don't have to do that anymore, they're going to force you to go back to the office. Big companies don't care. So now that we have seen this and the illusion bubble is burst and people are that have been overpaid, because in this overpay and over incentivize era, all lost their jobs. I mean, most of them.
Hmm.
We have now an influx of, I think the number is over 2 million coaches, experts, and consultants entering the market. What the internet marketing movement, the couple guys that constantly do one affiliate offer after the other, have figured out is that they are now teaching these people that are entering the market how to be business strategists, how to be high performance consultants and coaches. And the promise is in only 5 days. Imagine that. I mean, you've never done this before. And now somebody comes and promises you in only 5 days you can be a high performance coach. I mean, which is ridiculous. But it sounds like a great, easy promise. For only $10,000 in 5 days, I'm going to be a high performance coach. And now you can go up against somebody like me and other people who've been doing this for whatever decades with proven track
Hmm.
records. So if you are an existing expert coach consultant in whatever industry you're in, and that doesn't alarm you, I am going to give you a big fat wake up call right now. Because what they're going to do, they're going to erode the entire experts industry. They don't know how to run the business. They have friends though, because they were laid off from Facebook, Amazon, Meta, whatever that was. So they have big names behind them. So they're going to go in and they're going to do what you're doing for a fraction of the cost, which brings us back to the value proposition. If you don't know now how to talk about what it is that you are bringing to the table, the unique proprietary system you created to achieve a distinct client transformation journey for your customer, you are in deep, deep trouble. I mean, I'm shouting this from the rooftops. This is the time now. I had a consulting call with one of my clients yesterday, and then it came down to the question where she says it's a tutoring company, and she says, well, but then they say to me, well, we can get math tutoring from somebody who's not $50 an hour, but is $20 an hour. Why would I go with you? And she choked up and she says, I don't know what to say. That means that the value proposition is not clear. I
Right.
said, I said to her, Mimith, when somebody says this, I said, that is when you need to get excited. That's when you need to go, I am so glad you're asking me this question. This is the Toyota versus Lexus question. Allow me to explain. And then you go in and you say, well, if you just want a tutoring company, like Princess Leia said to Han Solo in Star Wars, if money is all you want, money shall be all you get. If all you want is the low-cost math tutor that terrorizes your poor child into math equations, go ahead, do that. That's not us. We teach your child self-advocacy in learning, because the reality of it is that the educational system is broken, because
Oh,
they teach kids how to take existing information, learn existing information, regurgitate existing information, and then you get an A. We have an army of school kids that go into the real world that look at you like the boss and says, where's the information I can learn? Where can I repeat what I just learned? And where do I get an A? And so I said, and if you come in and you say, and we help you to get your child not just an advocate for themselves in education, but to understand how to use this as a springboard for the stuff that really happens in life. Now I pay you $50 versus 20, because now there's a skill here, a value proposition, but it's tutoring, right? But it's a different kind of a tutoring. So in the value proposition, and you can tell how passionate I'm about this, but in the value proposition, I need to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And if I ask you, why are you different? Why should I hire you? You need to be able to tell me this in 30 seconds.
which is a kind of elevator pitch.
It is an elevator pitch, exactly. And an elevator pitch is not we help companies to solve their technology solutions. We are punctual. We show up on time. Dude, if you can't show up on time, you shouldn't be in business. We are qualified to do even the most complicated of things. Welcome to the club. If you don't know your current technology, you shouldn't be in business. We have very satisfied clients. Well, they better be satisfied or you shouldn't be in business. So people just regurgitate this really trite blah blah. And you go like, you're not telling me anything, because if you can't tell them differentiation factor, the go-to measurement then becomes price.
Right.
And then they are going and asking for the lowest cost provider, because then that is the only criteria they understand if you fail to give them the value proposition. Now I'm off my soapbox.
Oh, yeah, like you like it's a very, I would say it's a I run sometimes master classes, and this is a mini master class from you, Beate, because on multiple things you mentioned. First, takeaways. Education system is broken 100%. I mentioned 100 times. Someone need to change this. I don't know who, uh, but yeah. Second, um, you need to create this, fear of missing out, right? If you don't buy from me, yeah, there are plenty of service providers out there. Okay, you want the $5 guys? There are websites called after the word five. You can go and find people there, right? Now, uh, the reason I'm mentioning this, because again, one of the things that I want to talk about, I'm sharing with a lot of people and commenting on. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I get irritated. I get very upset of people who are still training the new generation of this old approach that you just mentioned. We are a well-established company, very deep knowledge in X, Y, Z, and we have done 100 projects. So what? There's like hundred clones, if not thousands, 10,000 clones of you. What are you doing to become? This is my own opinion, and this is why I want to ask you about this as well. What I'm repeating recently, and I'm sharing this, people will like it, hate it, I don't know, but this is my own thought about it. If you are in technology, business, whatever it is, you need to be very special and become a magnet.
Yes.
If you are not a magnet, there's something wrong with you because you're gonna be a parrot. So either you are a parrot or a magnet. What
Yes.
do you think?
I think this is really it. And I give you an example. So I was talking to a technology company and they do call centers, and they first came to it from analyzing the conversations, the customer service conversations, and the sales call conversations. And then they evolved this business out into doing additional offers. And then when I looked at the suite of offers that they did, it looked like random, random collection of things. It's like, so what are you? Are you a call center? Are you a technology data company? Like what exactly are you? And I said, the problem is there's a very simple solution here to being a magnet, and that is to create your signature growth system. It's really easy. When you think about somebody like Pilates, Pilates was a dancer who got injured and he couldn't heal his body with the traditional methods. He designed
Mm.
a device specifically for flexible bodies of dancers where the rehabilitation could be done quicker. So he designed a method, he designed a device. Today, it's a worldwide global movement that is the Pilates method. And there's
Right.
16 different versions of it. That's a signature system. So anybody can create a signature growth system and say, like we, our tag is the growth architect. My signature system is the 5-star success blueprint. I use this as a diagnosis so I can see in the client transformation journey where my clients are stuck, what the pieces are that they're missing. So when I sell, I don't sell myself, I sell my system. And I can scale because in my system, I then can say this piece is now handled by this person. This piece
Mm-hmm.
is handled by this person. Now I get my freedom back over time. So if you do not have a proprietary signature growth system, it is very difficult to be a magnet because you still stumble in the dark about the services that you offer. But if the system solves a transformation journey issue and has different entry points, now your clients can self-identify where on that scale they fall. It's magic, magic. And I do more and more and more and more of it because I keep seeing the most brilliant, smart people. When you ask them what they do, it sounds literally like a fifth grader.
Yeah. And this is what you call authority, right?
That is authority. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you need to differentiate yourself somehow from the mass. And if you
Yes.
don't do this, and now I became a very advocate of this. Oh no, I'm not sure if I should, I will be in trouble or not later on, but I have to mention it because what I'm seeing recently happening, especially in the corporate world. I was in the corporate world. I worked for like long time, 10 years, more than 10 years. And then before I was on a normal client side. And what I start to see recently that in the corporate world, they are nurturing something very dangerous. And this is it's like kind of a propaganda. I don't know what we should call it. Where you see, for example, everyone in the company, they copy the same message and they post it everywhere, right? And they think, oh, the more people will see our message, the better it is. But like this is kind of for me, it's a propaganda, right? Business should not be done using a propaganda. You should be educating people why you are doing it better. What's your differentiator from the others? So people they say, okay, this guy is keep showing up. This company is keep showing up. We are seeing them everywhere. So and they are saying something very different from the others. Let's see what they have, right? uh, I'm really sad for young people who are usually fresh graduates, and they put them in this situation. Hey, whoever invented this software, and we have swear on a CTO show, I was doing this mistake myself, by the way. I was copying the
Mhm.
company message and sharing it as is. And then I figured out before I leave that like I'm doing a propaganda, and I don't like to do propagandas. I like to be me, right? So what you mentioned now is a something that can awaken a lot of business leaders, startup founders, tech executives. That guys, you need the authority. You need to establish your own brands. I would say.
You said something very interesting. Actually, I think that also ties into a larger issue. Is that this idea of, if you look at the political climate, and I'm not going to go political, but if you look at the political climate worldwide, it's not just the United States, it's everywhere right
Global.
now. There is a very hard right movement, and typically when we see something like this in history, there are a few people that feel that it's their job to tell everybody else what to do. Now,
Mm-hmm.
on the other side, we have this unbelievable evolution with AI and technology that is the smartest person you never knew you had access to, that can solve things that you didn't even exist. Now, we're feeding this machine because it's still in its infancy and learning. So we have to be very careful with all the stuff that we put into this learning experience, because what you put in is what you get out, which is, I think, everybody in the technology and AI space is so worried about. So, now you want to look at it and you say, is it my job? If we think about this on an evolutionary perspective as a parent, if we are good parents, our job really is to get this kid ready by 18 to go and conquer the world. That's our job. But we don't do that. We tell our kids, a lot of them still live at home at 30 because we have successfully been able to really take away all this responsibility from them. We help them not to fail. We bail them out. We make excuses. We're paranoid that they're having a bad experience in life instead of allowing them to have experiences in life that then will shape them to be the person that then knows how to handle adversity, because life is not a princess or a prince story where we were born royalty and then somebody one day handed us a crown. Mostly it is far from. So, what you are saying is that if I am now a leader, is it better to give the message of what we lead by and what we achieve and who we are serving and what our mission is for our clients, and then allowing you to interpret that within the parameters of the sandbox I just put you in, but I don't tell you you need to use the green shovel because you like
Yeah.
to dig with your hands, or you want to bring in your yogurt cup. Like, what do I care? What do you do it with? But I think that in an environment that we're in right now, it goes so far out. No, you must use the green shovel, and you can only use the green shovel between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. And after that, you must switch to the yellow rake. And the yellow rake you're only allowed from. It's just ludicrous. So I think this propaganda stuff looks like propaganda in an environment like this because it actually is. Why can I not say, I believe that what we do is changing the world? And here is who we are. Here's what we do. Here's who we serve. And now I want to hear from you and how we can make this greater instead of keeping you confined. I think that's the challenge we're in right now.
Wow. Yeah, 100%. I agree with this, and I love this approach. Beate, like, you mentioned a few moments ago about your five-star success blueprint, like, and how it can help in getting to know if the business is stuck. So can you a little bit elaborate on this one?
Oh, 100%. It's very simple. So the 5-star success blueprint has 5 stars, as the name says. The first one is the idea. So you want to start looking at, what is it that you're doing? Who is it for? What does this client look like? Why do they need it? What's the problem that they're having? And why am I the right one to provide the solution? That's the basics. Then you go to
Short
number
and
2,
sweet.
short and sweet, is the offer. Only when you have figured out what the first one is should you actually make an offer. Because then
Mm,
you can create the offer specifically designed to solve the problem for the person being you, and you need all these elements to do a proper offer. Once you have
right.
that, then and only then are you starting to build your systems, because now you know which systems you need to make the offer that solves the problem for the person you've identified. Then and only then are we building the team that operates the systems that manages the offer that solves the problem for the person we've identified. And then
Mhm.
finally, we look at you and we say, who do you need to be as a leader to manage that team that manages that system that operates that offer to solve the problem for the client? And if you look at it as from this, just like simply, it's the simplest way to look at it. What do we do? How do we sell it? How do we deliver it? Who is doing it? Who do I need to be to make that whole thing happen? Not magic. It's simple. You just have to
Yeah.
figure out what the steps are.
And I think it applies very much to even startups and
Yeah.
tech entrepreneurs. Like it's a very valuable and very easy. I get to I read a little bit about it, and yeah, like it's very actually it's very logical. I would say it like it just tell us to come back to the logics, because what I see sometimes, people get so excited, and sometimes they have egos as well, and they start to do assumptions. So basically, this I think your framework let us again come to reality, and if we answer these um, simple questions, as you said, like we will have a lot of more clarity, right?
Yeah, I have such a fun example. So I'm literally, I'm sitting at the hairdresser a couple days ago, and this guy walks in, completely ignored the no solicitation sign, and immediately goes into a sales pitch. And he's talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. He's asking no questions. And then finally, about 6 minutes in, I looked at him and I said, "Dude, you need help. You need help with this sales pitch." I said, "This is like really bad." And he goes like, "Well," and he gets like all defensive. And I said, "Look, if you're really in sales, you know that you need to ask your potential client questions."
Right.
I said, "And you haven't asked her a single question." "Well, I haven't gotten to that yet." I'm like, "Well, as far as I'm concerned, you're 6 minutes in." So there was such a disconnect that he was so obsessed with his product, which was more expensive, which he couldn't demonstrate on why it was better than the existing product, other than he was very cool and a bunch of celebrity stylists were using it, and that he really didn't need the money. I mean, he made a complete idiot out of himself. He could not explain any of these, and that's exactly what I talk about. He did not know who his client was. He made the product about himself
Right.
instead of saying, "The reason I want to be here with this product is because what we have found that our competitor, they rip so easily. So we've done a stronger product. It's a little bit more expensive, but this is for especially hair that's whatever difficult to manage." Didn't do any of that. So you you think you always it's so easy, let me put it this way. It's so easy to fall in love with your product
Yes.
that you
Yes.
don't think about, does anybody even want it?
100%. 100%. 100%. And not only this, like you need to think also, this is I started to talk about recently, and I said, especially if you are in kind of a business or you are selling a service, product, whatever it is, that is replacing something else, you need to also put into consideration that the guy you're talking to, he took a decision about the previous product. And
Yes.
if you go immediately and start to position your product in a way that it it let him feel that, excuse me for maybe being a little bit rude, but maybe the client will feel himself dumb or herself dumb because she did the previous decision, you are doing a mistake. This is
Yeah.
where the question part comes into the picture. And I want to add one thing, and maybe I'm repeating myself. do it in an authentic way, not robotic way. Not because someone put for you, a book and said, okay, follow these steps. Don't do it this way. Don't be robotic. Be authentic. That's what I would say. Beate, like we are almost done, I would say. Um, you have a lot of experience, and you work with a lot of businesses. So, what advice would you give to others who are on the verge, maybe to leave, what they are doing today and start their own ventures, or maybe they are just fresh in the market and still hesitating to start something? So, what advice you would give them?
Yeah, I think that the most important advice when you're thinking about starting your own business or you're early in the startup phase, it costs money. People are always shocked that it costs money. The second thing is that you are not going to get a medal for doing everything yourself. There is
Right,
no reward. When we go to your funeral, nobody ever said, "Here lies a man or a woman who did everything themselves." That's never, because you know what? Nobody's going to be at that funeral because that was a lone wolf. So you want to be very clear very early on that it is not a question of how can I myself do it all, but who do I need that can get me there the fastest, and then make sure you have a budget for that, because it is time or money you spent. And
right,
if you don't value your time, you're going to pay more in lost time and opportunity than in the money that you would if you would have hired a coach, a consultant, an expert like you in the first place. Right. And then you go, I just lost 3 years of my life. If I would have paid this person, whatever the 10, 20,000 that they were asking for, I could have saved myself 3 years. Now, if you don't think that 20,000 is worth a 3 year saving in time, because that's lost opportunity and income. So,
right,
unless you want to only make $20,000 over the next 3 years. So I think that's what gets often misunderstood. Yeah, yeah, consultants and experts, and they all, want money. That's what we do. We do this for a living. We are experts at this. We
right.
save, I when I work with people specifically on the signature growth system, Mimith, it is, I mean, we're not allowed to say typical results because of
Sure.
the laws, obviously, but it is not uncommon for people to start selling while they're in the course. Why? Because they finally understand how they need to present and position this. So now you've been trying for 5 years to get this piece of how do you talk about yourself squared away. I can take you through in 8 weeks. Now you think about what you lost in those 5 years of sales that you couldn't close because you didn't have the language that I could have taught you in 8 weeks. And that's really something that, especially right now, I implore people to look at on and obviously doesn't have to be me, it can be you, it can be other people. I mean, you have to find somebody that resonates with you, but to really get clear and say who can get me there fast, because speed right now is
Is
not
key.
your is key. Time is not your friend.
100%. 100%. Lot of advices, lot of I would say provoking moments. But I have to ask my famous question at the end, which is anything you wished I asked you and how you would answer it.
Yeah, I probably would say that the one thing I get asked is about resilience and failure, and
Please.
how do you get a better mindset around this feeling that you are a failure when you made a mistake. And because I made so many of them, my piece of advice is that I want your listeners, Mammoth, to really think about this from a very pragmatic perspective. So I want you to think about that you have this car, and in the car the GPS has been telling you for weeks you need to update the software, but you
Mhm.
don't have time because you're on the way to pick your kids up, you're way to the meeting, you can't just I mean, it just takes so long, you don't have time. Well, inevitably, now the place that you usually go, the route, there's construction because they're building the freeway. Well, you didn't update the GPS, so you didn't see it. So what are you going to do? You're going to get out of the car. Are you going to throw yourself in front of the construction guys in the middle of the road? Are you going to throw a temper tantrum? Are you going to say, I'm a failure? I'm such a terrible driver. I'll never drive again. I'm going to sell my car. It's just not worth it. I'm the worst driver in the world. This is ridiculous. How could I not have seen this? Uh, you're not doing any of this. You just go touch your head and say, note to self, update the GPS next time a little bit earlier. And then you do the shocking thing, you turn around and you find another way. Why? Because the destination is still there. The meeting is still on the books. You just have to find a different way. So when your listeners, Mammoth, now have an obstacle or they go into this, I can't bloody believe I did this. I want you to imagine the gentleman or the woman in their full-on, safety suit with the neon colors and the reflective stripe and a big fat stop sign, smiling at you ever so gently, pointing at the stop sign and saying, "It's the wrong way." And then you wave back and they say, "Got it." Finding another way.
Wow, this is really good advice, actually. Um, yeah, and for me, like you mentioned about resilience and failure. For me, I don't love the word failure. I call it experiment. I call it, I don't know. But
Learning.
learning, yeah, learning. I prefer learning.
Yeah.
Uh, actually, it's an experience which better that you learn from it. Like this is the way, because some people, yeah, if you do the same mistake again and again, like you have something wrong with you, buddy. Like I don't know, you need maybe you need to see someone specialized. But I mean, yeah, like down the road, everyone does mistakes, and sometimes it's not only mistakes; it's like big failures, which is fine. And this is the whole. I think this is part. When I was reading this, I was thinking, like this is very romantic. Like yeah, like we hear about these entrepreneurs, like they struggled and this, but when you start to also yourself live it, oh, you say no, this is true. So you need sometimes to struggle, you need to learn, let's not call it fail, so you can reach your final destination, I would say. Beate, final thing, where the audience can find more about you and your program.
Yes. So you can find me all over social media under either my name, Beate Chelette, and the proper spelling is going to be in the show notes,
Sure.
or under Growth Architect. And I would encourage you, we have a couple things that you can think about if that resonates with you. Number one, if you now have this feeling that you better be should look at your avatar, go to airtightavatar.com, check that out, see if that's right for you. We've designed it 15 minutes and you'll know exactly who your airtight avatar is. If you are not sure what your business needs, go to our growth blocker, go to growthblockerquiz.com, and in 2 minutes take our complimentary quiz to figure out where your business is stuck and how you can remove that blocker. And if there was anything you heard and you go, wow, maybe I should talk to her, go to uncoverysession.com. Please make sure you mention the CTO show so we can give you priority, and talk to our business growth advisors for 15 minutes, and we'll help you to figure out, maybe some ideas on what you can do to take your business to the next level. And while I'm at it, I want to give you a shout out, Mammoth. So for all of you listening, this is a labor of love. Will you please go wherever you pick up the CTO show and give Mammoth a 5-star review
Oh, thank
and
you.
make a comment? Share this with one other person because we need the comments and we need the shares for the show to get a better ranking so that we can inspire more people with all the great work that Mammoth is doing.
Oh, thank you very much, Beatty, for this. Actually, as I told you before we started, that my goal now is to empower and educate and get the best minds I can find as much as possible. And my guests are, from all over the world. Like you are in the US. I have guys who join me from all parts of the world, and I'm on the hunt of people like yourself who has stories that they want to share and inspire others. Of course, all the links that Beate mentioned, they will be available in the episode description. You can find all of them there. And thank you, Beate, actually, for asking for the review and for the share. So this is a small ask from me as well. If you find this show useful, let me know. If you find it horrible, also let me know. I always try to learn from the audience. How should I do? If there anything that I can enhance, any feedback about this episode or the show in general, don't hesitate. Where you find me on LinkedIn, Twitter mainly, and my email is available in the podcast description itself. Reach out. If, as I said, you want to become a guest on the show, same as Beate was today, don't hesitate. Reach out to me directly. We can discuss, we can arrange it. Wherever you are in the world, doesn't matter. I can do recordings mid of the night. I can do very early in the morning. If the time difference is not an issue. And Beate, again, at the end, before we close, I want to thank you very much. I know you have a very busy schedule. Thank you for being with me today. And for the audience, hope to hear your feedback. And until we meet in a new episode, thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you for having me.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.